Welcome to another session of Aloka discussion. As always, we have in our studio Venerable Sandalaka Kalandasana Thero and Venerable Gampa Sumanansa Thero with us for this valuable discussion. Last week we spoke about being biased and without being biased, how to pick the right alternative for you, your team and your organization. So I would like to bring the attention towards a related concept, which is cognitive biasness. All of us are victims of cognitive biasness. We usually try to create our own subjective reality through our own experience and perception. But as individuals, we have to make a conscious effort to overcome this issue of cognitive biasness and should have a very good self-control to make sure that our decisions are not clouded by this cognitive biasness. Venerable Sumanansa Thero, is Buddhism talking about this importance of self-control and how can we improve our self-control and reduce cognitive biasness by practicing and following Buddhism?
With respect to Venerable Sandalanka Kalandasana Thero, Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, Buddhism indeed emphasizes self-control and offers valuable insights on how to improve it. Buddhism guides us to practice self-control through sila, nekkhamma and mindfulness and non-self. The first one is sila, which is ethical conduct. Self-discipline in Buddhism begins with adhering to the 5 ethical precepts, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying and taking intoxicants. These guidelines promote restraint in speech and actions. The next one is nekkhamma, renunciation. Beyond the precepts, Buddhism encourages us to refrain from self-gratification. By cultivating contentment and letting go of desires, we develop self-control. Dear devotees, the last one is mindfulness and non-self. Buddhist practices like meditation foster self-awareness and mindfulness. Interestingly, Buddhism teaches that the self is an illusion, anatta. By recognizing the impermanence and casualty of all things, we reduce attachment to the ego and gain better control over our impulses. Dear devotees, Buddhism also teaches us methods in reducing cognitive biases. The first one is having awareness. Buddhism emphasizes self-awareness. By observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, we become more conscious of our cognitive biases. The next one is non-discursive awareness. Dear devotees, some Buddhist traditions focus on non-discursive awareness. Instead of analyzing thoughts intellectually, practitioners cultivate direct, non-conceptual awareness. This can help in reducing the biases arising from habitual patterns of thinking. The third one is mindfulness meditation. Regular mindfulness meditation helps us in recognizing the cognitive biases by observing our mental processes objectively. It allows us to step back from automatic reactions and make more conscious choices. The last one is compassion and empathy. Buddhism encourages compassion towards ourselves and others. When we empathize with different perspectives, we become less prone to biases based on preconceived notions. Dear devotees, Buddhism provides practical tools for self-control through ethical conduct, mindfulness, and understanding the illusionary nature of the self. By integrating these teachings into our lives, we can reduce cognitive biases and cultivate greater self-mastery.
Venerable Gampa Sumanansa Thero explained the basic Buddhist concept which lead us to improve our self-control and practices we can apply in reducing our cognitive biasness. Venerable Kalandasana Theros, can you give us an example about a practice of this concept self-control in Buddhist teaching?
Yes, with respect to Gampa Sumanavansa Thero and Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, Thelapatta Jataka is a good example for this concept. The Bodhisattva was once a prince who was the youngest of a king's 100 sons. Once when some Pacheka Buddha were eating at the palace, the Bodhisattva asked them if he would become the king someday. They answered that it would never happen in this city, but if he could journey in 7 days to Takshila, he would become king there. However, the Takshila is 2,000 leagues away on a route inhabited by female demons who enchanted men with their beauty and charm, and then they ate them. Believing he had the power to resist, and taking a charmed thread and some charmed sand from the Pacheka Buddhas, he said goodbye to his family and set out. 5 royal courtiers respected him so much that they insisted on joining him despite stern warnings of the danger. Dear devotees, as they walked, one by one these men were ensnared by the demoness's temptations, and they lagged behind the others to indulge their pleasures. All 5 were killed and eaten. One demoness followed the Bodhisattva, telling everyone they passed that they were husband and wife. When the Bodhisattva explained that she was actually a murderous demoness, she replied that he was only saying this because he was angry with her, and because she was so charming, everybody believed her. Next, when they reached Taksila and the king saw the demoness's beauty, he was so smitten that he ignored the Bodhisattva's warning and invited her to stay in the best room in his palace. That evening, he went to be with her. After he fell asleep, she rushed back to her city and returned with all other female demons. They devoured every person and animal in the palace, leaving nothing but bones behind. In the morning, when the people broke down the palace doors and saw the carnage, they realized the Bodhisattva had been right and she really was a demoness. Because the Bodhisattva had been the only one to resist her, they knew he must be a noble, steadfast, and a wise person. So they made him their king, and he ruled with righteousness and charity for the rest of his life. While giving his disciples a lesson on mindfulness, Lord Buddha told a parable of a man forced to carry a pot of hot oil in front of a large crowd that was watching the most beautiful woman in all the land singing and dancing. A man with a drawn sword followed behind him, and if even a single drop of oil spilled, the man carried the pot would be beheaded. In this circumstance, the man would be extremely careful and not gaze upon the woman. The Lord Buddha said the pot represented a person's state of mind regarding their body, and people should practice right mindfulness about this as carefully as the man concentrated on carrying the pot. When one of his disciples stated that it was very difficult for the man to not be distracted by the woman, Lord Buddha corrected him and said, having an executioner escort made it easy. Then he told this story so his disciples knew he had once had to preserve right mindfulness during a similar task without any assistance. Dear devotees, this is how Bodhisattva successfully resisted lust and won a kingdom in his past life. Dear devotees, if your aim is firm, with unwavering effort and right mindfulness, you can reach your goal with self-control.
So Venerable Kalandasara Thero explained how mindfulness can assist us in improving our self-control. Venerable Sumanasa Thero, can you further elaborate this concept from Buddhist point of view?
Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, to reduce cognitive biasness, the Lord Buddha has given advice to monks in many ways. One such example is the Chandupama Sutta, which can be found in the Samyutta Nikaya, Kassapa Samyutta. Dear devotees, the Lord Buddha preached, "Bhikkhus, when you are going on your alms round, you should approach families like the moon drawing back the body and mind, always acting like newcomers, without any expectations or disrespect towards families. Just as a man looking down an old well, a cliff, or a steep riverbank would draw back the body and mind, so too bhikkhus should you approach families." Mr. Karagala, next the Lord Buddha asked the question, "What do you think, bhikkhus? What kind of bhikkhu is worthy to approach families?" Unable to answer, the bhikkhus expected the answer from the Blessed One. Dear devotees, the Lord Buddha waved his hand in the space and said, "Monks, just as this hand does not get caught in it, is not held fast by it, is not bound by it, so too when a bhikkhu approaches families, if his mind does not get caught, held fast, and bound amidst families, and if he thinks, 'May those desiring gains acquire gains, may those desiring merits make merits,' because if he is as elated and happy over the gains of others as if it was his own, such a bhikkhu is worthy to approach families." Then the Lord Buddha praised Mahakashyapa Thero by saying, "Bhikkhus, when Mahakashyapa Thero approaches families, his mind does not get caught by it, not held fast or bound amidst families. Instead he thinks, 'May those desiring gains acquire gains, may those desiring merits acquire merits.' He is elated and happy over the gains of others as if it was his own." After that, the Lord Buddha asked another question. "Bhikkhus, how do you think a monk's teachings of the Dhamma becomes impure or pure?" Here again, with the request of the monks, the Lord Buddha answered, "If a bhikkhu teaches the Dhamma to others with the thought, the Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, directly visible, brings immediate results, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise. May they listen to the Dhamma from me. Having listened, may they understand the Dhamma. Having understood, may they practice accordingly. In this way he teaches the Dhamma to others, because of the intrinsic excellence of the Dhamma. He teaches the Dhamma to others from compassion and sympathy, and out of tender concern. Such a bhikkhu's teaching of the Dhamma is pure." Then the Lord Buddha finally preached, "Bhikkhus, Mahakassapa Thero teaches the Dhamma to others with that kind of thought. He teaches the Dhamma to others from compassion and sympathy and out of tender concern. Dear devotees, this discourse provides valuable insights into how monastics should approach lay families and how they should teach the Dhamma. So, dear devotees, with mindfulness you can reduce cognitive biasness.
So as a leader, if you allow your cognitive biasness to cloud your decisions, you will make a decision on behalf of your team and your organization through your personal perception, which might not be the best for your team or to your organization, or probably might not even be the best for you. As a leader, you should have a very good self-control, and as explained by both Venerable Kalandasana Thero and Sumanavansa Thero, through right mindfulness, if you develop that self-control to overcome your cognitive biasness, you will become a successful leader. If not, you will end up destroying you and your team both. Last week, we spoke about sacrificing the least impactful and beneficial alternative for the greater good. But there is another angle to alternative selection. I'm talking about alternative selection because as leaders, every day, every minute, we have to make decisions in between alternatives. Sometimes we tend to see what is obvious, which is sitting and standing in front of us, and what is available right in front of us, but forget to see the alternative which gives us a bigger benefit in the long run. Because we are in a hurry to make a decision, or we do our selection without analyzing the repercussions of these short-term decisions. So because of that, we fail to make the right decision as we don't do that analysis properly. Venerable Kalandasana Thero is Buddhism highlighting the importance of having a long-term view and pursuing a longer-term benefit. And if so, how Buddhism can improve our ability to see the long-term impact and benefits of the decision we make.
Mr. Karagala, Buddhism indeed emphasizes the significance of the long-term perspective and the pursuit of lasting benefits. The concept of karma plays a crucial role in Buddhist teachings. It suggests that our actions have consequences not only in this life but also in future lives. Positive actions lead to positive outcomes, while negative actions result in negative consequences. This long-term view encourages ethical behavior and self-control. Dear devotees, when Lord Buddha encouraged his principles to protect Sila, to develop Samadhi and Vipassana, he was mostly encouraging to make good karmas that would bring beneficial impacts to their spiritual lives. On the other hand, someone keeps his virtues very well through his good conduct, he will be respected among the common folks. He will be able to enhance his wealth due to being diligent in his work. He will be able to attend any formal assembly with high self-confidence, and also he can face death mindfully. Dear devotees, not only that, but a virtuous person would naturally be free from guilt. This would lead him to attain higher spiritual states much easier. Due to being a virtuous person, his relatives, friends, and employees under him may also enjoy various benefits. That is why Lord Buddha preached this verse in the Dhammapada Papavagga, Badropi passati papang yava badrang na paccati. Yadacha paccati bhadrang ata badro badrani passati. That means a virtuous person may have to suffer until his merits or good deeds ripen. But when it does ripen, then he will undoubtedly receive pleasant results of their good deeds.
So Venerable Kalyandassana Thero explained about the benefits and result of being a virtuous person and of the virtuous deed. Sumanasa Thero, Venerable Sumanasa Thero sir, can you give us an example for this from Buddhist teaching?
Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, while residing at Jayatavana monastery, the Lord Buddha spoke with reference to Ananda Pindika, the householder, the famous rich man of Savatthi. Mr. Karagala, the householder Anathapindika, who spent 54 billion on the Jayatavana monastery alone, would wait upon or attend to the Lord Buddha 3 times a day, when the Blessed One resided at the Jayatavana monastery. And whenever he thought to go to the temple or monastery, he thought, the young novices will look at my hand and ask, what have you bought today for us? And because of this, he would never go empty-handed. Dear devotees, when he went there early in the morning, he carried rice porridge with him. After breakfast, he carried ghee, fresh butter, and other medicines. In the evening, he carried with him incense sticks, garlands, balms, and robes. Mr. Karagala, at that time, a few traders had borrowed 18 billion from him, and another 18 billion belonging to his family was secretly buried at the bank of a river. But due to the burst of the river bank, they were swept away into the great ocean. Because of that, his wealth gradually reduced to a state of poverty. But in spite of this, he did not stop giving alms to the congregation of monks as before, although he was unable to give the best food. Dear devotees, after knowing of his condition, the Lord Buddha asked him, are you still giving alms in your household every day? The householder Anathapindika replied, yes, Venerable Sir, but the food is nothing but bird feed and sour gruel. Then the Lord Buddha said to him, householder, do not allow yourselves to think, it is nothing but coarse food that I give to the Buddha. If the intentions are pure, it is impossible to give to the Buddha and his disciples food that is really coarse. Dear devotees, because the Buddha and the monks who entered the house of Anathapindika was extremely virtuous, whenever they came, the god that lived there was unable to stay in her abode and had to come down. So she thought, I need to separate this householder from these monks so that I can live in peace. But she was unable to do so because the householder Anathapindika had great wealth and power. But after he slowly became poor, the god decided to persuade him. So she went at night and hovered in the air, and when the householder saw this, he asked, who are you? Then the deity replied, great treasurer, I am the god who has been living here, and I have come to give you some advice, and continued by saying, great treasurer, without considering the future, you have dissipated your wealth in the religion of monk Gautama. Now, although you have reduced yourself to poverty, you still continue on giving your wealth. If you continue this course, in a few days, you will not have enough left to provide yourself with clothing and food. So abandon your giving, devote your attention to business, and make a fortune. Dear devotees, when Anathapindika heard this, he said, Is this the advice you came to give me? If so, then go away. Even if 100,000 gods like you came, you won't be able to stop me from giving offerings. You said something that you should not have said. Leave my house this instant. The god, unable to withstand the words of a noble disciple who had attained the fruits of conversion, left his house. Dear devotees, after leaving the house, the god was unable to find a place to stay. Then she thought to herself, I will ask the treasurer to pardon me and to allow me to resume my residence in this house. And accordingly, she approached the Lord deity of the city and told him of her offense and asked him, come with me and persuade him to pardon me, persuade him to allow me to resume my residence in his house. But the deity of the city replied, you said something that you shouldn't have said. It will be impossible for me to go with you to the treasurer's residence, and refused her request. Dear devotees, then she went to the 4 great kings, but they also refused her request. Then finally she approached Sakka, the king of gods, and told him of her story, and asked earnestly, Sire, I am unable to find a place to live. Please help me get permission to return to my former residence. Then Sakka replied, even I am unable to do that. However, I will tell you a way. Hearing this, she said with hope, Sire, please tell me what it is. The king of gods then said, go and use your powers to recover the wealth he had lost. Recover the money that people had borrowed from him, and the money that was swept away, and fill his storage again. And atoning for your offense, ask him for forgiveness. Dear devotees, after that, the god did everything that the king of gods has asked her to do. And she went to the householder again and said, it is me, the blind and stupid god, who once lived here. Please forgive me for what I have said before. I have recovered the 54 billion of wealth and filled your empty storeroom. I have atoned for my mistake. I have no place to stay and I am very tired. Please allow me to come back. The householder thought to himself, the god says she has atoned for her mistake and admits her wrongdoing. I should present her to the Blessed One and ask for his advice. Accordingly, he brought the god to the Lord Buddha and told her to tell the Blessed One everything you have done. The god said, Lord Buddha, because of my foolishness, I did not recognize your greatness and spoke evil words. Pardon me for having spoken them, and asked forgiveness from both the Buddha and the great treasurer. Dear devotees, then the Lord Buddha advised both the treasurer and the god with reference to the ripening of deeds, both good and evil, saying, here in this present life, great treasurer, even an evildoer sees happiness, so long as his evil deeds has not yet ripened. But as soon as his evil deeds ripen, then he will suffer. Likewise, a good man sees evil things as long as his good deeds have not yet ripened. But as soon as his good deeds have ripened, then he sees only happiness.
So as a leader and as a human being, always think about the consequences of your actions and always do the things which will not make you guilt, and always be a virtuous person and do virtuous deed. That's what both Venerable Kalyana Thero and Venerable Sumanwansa Thero was explaining. So I spoke about getting and doing things which makes longer term benefit. So this will automatically drive you to pick the alternatives and do the things which give you a longer term benefit. And most importantly, if you follow what just been said, it will definitely make you a happy person. That is what all of us are looking for. So that brings us to an end of another program of Aloka Dhamma discussion. As always, I thank Malasekara Foundation for being partner with JAYA TV in doing this noble work, and as always, with great gratitude, I thank Venerable Kalandasana Thero and Venerable Sumanasa Thero for being in the studio today in sharing their noble knowledge with all of us globally. Teruvan Saranai.